colony vanished, word Croatoan left. It was the summer of 1590. England, basking in the golden age of Elizabeth I, harbored dreams of a new world empire. Sir Walter Raleigh, the Queen's flamboyant favorite, had sponsored several expeditions to the land he christened Virginia, a vast territory encompassing much of the eastern coast of what would become the United States. The jewel in this crown was the Roanoke colony, established in 1587. 115 souls, men, women, and children, clung to life on a small island, hoping to carve out a piece of England on foreign soil. Their leader, John White, governor of the colony, sailed back to England for supplies, leaving his daughter, Eleanor Dare, her husband Ananias, and his newly born granddaughter, Virginia, behind. He promised to return quickly, but fate, in the form of the Anglo-Spanish War, intervened, delaying his return for 3 long years. When he finally did arrive, he found only silence. The houses stood empty, the fort dismantled, and the colonists gone. An ominous symbol carved into a post offered a single, chilling clue. The air hung thick with unanswered questions. John White, already burdened by grief over the fate of his family, was now confronted with a terrifying mystery. The colonists hadn't been ravaged by war, nor had they been swept away by a storm. Their disappearance was too complete, too devoid of any trace. The single word Croatoan, carved into a post, was the only tangible evidence. Croatoan was the name of a nearby island and the tribe that inhabited it, a group of Native Americans known to be relatively friendly with the English. White, desperate for any lead, wanted to investigate, but a series of storms and navigational mishaps prevented him from landing on Croatoan Island. Frustrated and heartbroken, he was forced to return to England, leaving the fate of the Roanoke colonists shrouded in uncertainty. He would never know what happened to his daughter, his son-in-law, or his granddaughter. The mystery remained unsolved, a dark stain on England's burgeoning colonial ambitions. Rumors and speculation began to swirl almost immediately. Some whispered of a devastating Indian attack, despite the absence of any signs of violence. Others theorized that the colonists had been carried off by Spanish raiders, though there was no record of such an incursion. Perhaps disease had swept through the settlement, decimating the population and leaving the survivors too weak to bury the dead properly. Or had they succumbed to starvation after their supplies ran out? The lost colony became a cautionary tale, a stark reminder of the dangers of venturing into the unknown. As years turned into decades, the story morphed and twisted, becoming interwoven with folklore and legend. The ghosts of the Roanoke colonists haunted the English imagination, a symbol of colonial failure and the unpredictable nature of the New World. The Croatoan Indians, later known as the Hatteras, became the immediate focus of suspicion. Could they have betrayed the colonists? Were they responsible for the disappearance? Early investigations yielded little concrete evidence. Some colonists, prior to White's departure, had expressed fear of the local tribes, but others had forged strong relationships. The Croatoan were known to be skilled traders and fishermen, and they had previously aided the English settlers. It seemed unlikely that they would have suddenly turned hostile without provocation. Yet, the carved word Croatoan couldn't be ignored. Was it a message, a warning, or a confession? Some historians believe that the colonists had agreed upon this word as a signal, indicating that they had relocated to Croatoan Island in search of refuge. But a darker theory began to emerge, one that challenged the notion of a simple Indian raid or a peaceful relocation. What if the colonists had not been victims, but aggressors? Records suggest that tensions existed between the English and the Native Americans. The colonists were heavily reliant on the tribes for food and supplies, and they weren't always scrupulous in their dealings. Could a series of escalating conflicts have led to a violent confrontation? Perhaps the colonists had provoked the Croatoan into retaliating, leading to a bloody massacre that left no survivors. The historical record, often biased in favor of the colonizers, rarely acknowledged the perspectives and experiences of the indigenous populations. The lost colony narrative conveniently ignored the possibility that the English might have been responsible for their own demise. A shocking revelation came in the form of archaeological discoveries on Hatteras Island, the former home of the Croatoan. These findings suggested that the colonists had indeed integrated with the tribe. European artifacts, such as English pottery, weaponry, and tools, were found alongside Native American artifacts, indicating a prolonged period of cohabitation. Furthermore, oral traditions among the Hatteras Indians spoke of white ancestors who had arrived on their shores long ago. Could the Roanoke colonists have abandoned their settlement and sought refuge with the Croatoan, intermarrying and assimilating into their culture? This theory offered a more plausible explanation for the lack of skeletal remains or signs of a violent struggle. It suggested that the colonists had not disappeared, but rather had transformed, becoming something new entirely. However, this seemingly peaceful resolution was soon complicated by a new, disturbing twist. Further research revealed that the Croatoan were not a homogeneous group. They were, in fact, a diverse collection of tribes, some of whom were known for their warlike tendencies and ritualistic practices. What if the Roanoke colonists had integrated with the Croatoan, but had then become embroiled in their internal conflicts? Could they have been caught in a power struggle between rival tribes, leading to their demise? Or, even more disturbingly, could they have been subjected to ritualistic killings or sacrifices? The possibility that the colonists had fallen victim to the dark underbelly of Native American culture cast a sinister shadow over the entire narrative. As the investigation deepened, evidence emerged of a possible political cover-up. Sir Walter Raleigh, eager to maintain his reputation and secure further funding for his colonial ventures, may have deliberately suppressed information about the Roanoke disaster. He needed to portray Virginia as a safe and prosperous land, not a death trap haunted by the ghosts of failed settlers. By downplaying the dangers and uncertainties of the New World, he could continue to attract investors and convince potential colonists to risk their lives for the promise of wealth and opportunity. The official narrative of the lost colony may have been carefully crafted to conceal the truth and protect Raleigh's interests. The fate of the colonists, it seemed, was secondary to the ambitions of a powerful and ruthless man. Centuries passed, and the mystery of Roanoke continued to fascinate and confound historians. Archaeological expeditions, historical analyses, and genetic studies have all failed to provide a definitive answer. The descendants of the Hatteras Indians still carry the stories of their white ancestors, But these tales are often fragmented and contradictory. The truth, it seems, is forever lost in the mists of time. Or is it recent discoveries of DNA evidence among families in North Carolina linked to the original settlers suggests that the Roanoke bloodline did survive? Yet, the how and why of their assimilation remains fiercely debated. The chilling irony of the Roanoke colony lies in its legacy. Intended as a beacon of English civilization in the New World, it became a symbol of colonial failure and the enduring power of the unknown. The lost colony serves as a constant reminder of the fragility of human ambition and the unpredictable nature of history. Did the colonists vanish because of native savagery, disease, famine, or did they simply choose a different path, embracing a new culture and leaving behind the rigid constraints of English society? Perhaps the true mystery of Roanoke is not what happened to the colonists, but what they became. And perhaps, in their disappearance, they found a freedom that they could never have achieved in their homeland. The word Croatoan remains, not as an answer, but as an eternal, haunting question mark.